Hey there. So, we're doing something a little different today on Unmute the Voices. Outside of hosting this show, I run a nonprofit organization called Key to Change, which provides high quality violin and viola music instruction and creates positive experiences for underserved youth who are mainly of color that live in the working class suburbs of Seattle. Today, I'm welcoming some of the members of my team from Key to Change who work tirelessly with me to make Key to Change accessible for so many underserved students. I'll talk with them about how to provide better opportunities and remove barriers for underserved students. We'll also discuss how Key to Change operates and the power of valuing a young person's voice. Let's get to know Ashley Glovier, my executive assistant, and Quinton Baker, my grants manager, right now on Unmute the Voices. Ashley and Quenton, welcome to Unmute the Voices. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. It's an honor to be on your show.
Okay,
Same.
admit it. Does this feel a little strange talking to me on camera in this capacity?
Feels right to me.
Oh, it feels right to you. Okay.
You know, it's very stately. I like it.
A little strange for me. I'm used to talking to you on Zoom, but not on a recorded platform. I'm getting the stage fright, the dreams, of the performance nightmares.
Oh my gosh. Were you having nightmares last night, Ashley, about being on the show?
No, I did sleep okay, so I'm sure it'll go just fine.
Okay. Well, our audience knows that you are both part of my team. You both work in my nonprofit organization, Key to Change. I'm so glad to have you both here, where we're talking today about music education and the youth that we serve in South King County, which is the south suburbs of Seattle. You both are such an important part of this organization in helping us execute our mission. And I'm just curious for both of you if you can briefly talk about what you have learned since working for Key to Change. And Quenton, we have the same name for those of you who don't know. Quenton, I'll call on you first and then Ashley second.
I think the thing that stands out for me is the depth of the mission or the depth of the impact. Just the way that, in my interactions so far, the things that I've taken in, just seeing how affected the students are, and how valuable of a service it is that Key to Change provides. I think for me, that's what stands out in my mind.
Yeah, so I'm a transplant. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I've been here for about 4 years, and I just was completely unaware of the disparities in South King County and the lack of resources that are present there. I mean, I live in Tacoma. I travel occasionally to Seattle, but that in between geography is very forgotten. And just interacting with our students over the past several years, hearing and seeing firsthand what is lacking and how Key to Change provides that for the students has been most inspiring for me.
Yeah, and with our program, we provide violin and viola instruction for middle and high school students who are all underserved students in the South King County area. And we've made enormous progress since starting, this organization 5 years ago. Why do you feel it that we have not, or that there aren't more programs like Key to Change in the Pacific Northwest? Why is it that there are not a lot of programs that are serving underserved youth to have access to world-class music education? Why do you think that is? Who wants to take that on?
I'll take that on, because there's not money there. There's not money. It's not a profitable space. We aren't rolling in it at Key to Change. It's very challenging to quite frankly raise all the funds year to year to bring in more students. We're growing and we're doing it, but it is certainly difficult when some of the bigger name players are still keeping us at the door, and they're knocking, and it's hard to get in. I think when there is not money or fame involved, whether by association or just how it makes us feel good, it takes a lot of work to do what we're doing. And I don't know that people are lining up at the door to do it. They're not.
I would also say that there aren't a lot of Quinton Morrises. Like the whole point of Key to Change is to remove barriers to access, barriers that you yourself, it took a gargantuan effort and support and luck and all the things that are needed to break through in a situation like this. So like this program needs someone like you at the head of it. And if there's only one of you, then it makes sense that there's only one program like this in this area, because it's so hard to be in a position where you have the expertise and the ability to offer this instruction because of those barriers. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, it exists because it's so hard, and because it's so hard, it's the only one that exists.
Outside of the financial portion of working in a nonprofit, what other barriers do you feel that students or families or even schools may have with not having access to world-class music education?
I think the biggest barrier is that people don't invest in Black and brown kids.
Yeah.
Like, they don't believe in us. We don't have access to the same type of resources, whether it's because of how the tax structures are set up, and East Side schools have a ton of money, and, Seattle public schools and South King County schools don't. But from my time in Seattle public schools, it's that the administrators and the teachers, they look at you and they don't see anything of value unless you play ball, or, that's about it. Like, unless you're providing them with something that they expect from you, they don't frankly see the point in investing in you. And to me, that's the biggest barrier, is just a lack of will, a lack of belief. Like, why would we give these kids classical music instruction? They aren't going to do anything with it.
That's so powerful. And, I don't experience that as a white person. I don't know what that's like. I can imagine, and I've seen it in our students, but I just think about our mission is inspiring underserved youth. Like, what does it mean to inspire? Inspire is urging someone to do something creative, to see their potential, to engage with the world. And like you said, Quenton, if teachers aren't even giving Black and brown students a chance, or just seeing them as capable of doing that, they're going to rise to that expectation. Especially when they may not have the support at home. It doesn't mean that parents aren't well-intentioned, but we have language barriers. One of our students, I have to wait until she's home to be able to communicate with her mom because there's a language barrier and there needs to be translation. So you think about a student who is not only expected to go to school, study, participate, but they also have to take on the role of a parent in communicating all things between school administration and home. And in addition to that, a lot of times there are responsibilities at home for lower income families, childcare, household, that are above and beyond your typical responsibilities as a person living in a home. I expect my kids to help out, but they aren't expected to watch each other because I'm at work until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I think that's a big barrier. In fact, we've had a student that had to stop lessons because he needed to be available for his sister. And it wasn't able to come. So I think those are several more barriers in addition to just the financial blocker.
Yeah. Is there anything that you, for both of you, have been surprised by working in Key to Change? Is there anything that you've been like, wow, I did not know that, or oh my gosh, that touched me individually? Is there an experience, whether for you, Quenton, writing grants and learning about the data, or Ashley engaging with parents or students? Is there one thing that has kind of surprised you?
I think for me, I wasn't coming in after this, but seeing sort of the reverse impact that COVID had on Key to Change, as opposed to a lot of other places. Just seeing like the student base sort of expand and explode in that time as virtual lessons open things up. I think it's sort of an object lesson also on what Ashley was just talking about, and barriers to access. Like, that's something that previously, before 2020, not a lot of us even thought about, like the virtual component to various aspects of life. But seeing it flourish like that, was really fascinating.
You remove the barrier of transportation and they will come.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say, we killed it.
And I'm just going to say, you killed it. I wasn't even on board at that point, and you just pivoted and exploded. But that's Quinton Morris. And that is what the students see. And that's part of, this word inspire. Quinton inspires these kids. And that's something that always touches me, being able to watch the lessons. He raises the bar. He sets the expectation high because he knows they can do it, and he expects them to do it, and they do it. These kids are talented.
Yeah. Inspiration and expectations are acts of care. People don't have expectations of students they don't care about. And they don't take the time and energy to inspire students that they don't care about. And so, like, if you show up and you expect something out of a student and you inspire them to give their best, it's because you care, and they feel that, they know that. And then they're capable of reaching. A student never knows what they're capable of. And that's what the amazing thing about teaching is that you can give them a destination they never even would have thought of. But the downside is you can put them in a little tiny box. And that's, that's the danger, but that's also the gift. And that's what Key to Change does. It does that thing where now all these students, their lives are expanded, and the way they think of themselves is expanded because authority figures and people in positions of power and intelligence and expertise believe in them.
You guys have talked about inspiration and how students have been inspired through the teaching and through the mission of the organization. How are you both inspired working for the organization. Is there a moment or an experience that you can kind of point to of inspiration since you've been a part of the team?
The students inspire me. There's one, particular student that I'm quite fond of. And I particularly appreciate the growth that this student has experienced over her years at Key to Change. And the willingness to take constructive criticism, which is hard for anybody, and to use that to fuel her to the next level of her greatness. And it's inspiring because it starts with the teacher. It starts with Quenton. And a lot of times very well-intentioned parents, of which I am one, educators, we unintentionally dehumanize children and youth. They need to ask permission to use the bathroom. They need to ask permission to stand up, to walk around. As little people, you need to finish your food before you get dessert. Sit down, stay still. And they're expected to kind of earn this level of respect and to be treated as people. When I've seen time and again, Key to Change treating them as future adults. They are going to be future adults that are going to be capable of maybe getting in a rocket and going to Mars, or finding a cure for cancer, or something else that will just absolutely change humanity for the better. And as Quenton said, if a teacher doesn't see that in their students, it's hard for them to see that in themselves.
Yeah, for me, I think, I'm most inspired by I'm inspired by the level of care. I'm just happy that a program like this exists. I cannot do the work that I do for Key to Change and not think about my own experience and my own time in public schools here. And just knowing that these kids will have a different experience than I did, for me is great. I'm, by almost any measure now in my life, I'm accomplished, I'm intelligent, I'm all of these things. But, I went through my first 18 years of life thinking I was the dumbest person on the planet because that's how I was treated. So for me, it's like knowing that these kids they'll get a counter narrative to that. Because that's all I needed was one person being like, actually, you're smart. You don't know that? I didn't. And so knowing that these kids will have not only people telling them that, but a skill. They can pick up a violin anytime in their future life and play it and feel their accomplishments and their mastery and their work and their dedication, that it led to something tangible. And so making that circuit happen for these kids is what's inspiring for me.
I just kind of have a follow-up question to that. There is a lot of mistreatment of kids, and Ashley, you kind of pointed to this earlier about how we treat students as humans, that we really try to remove the barrier of superiority of, I'm the teacher, I'm here, and you're the student, you're here, and we really create this environment of learning. What can parents do to become more informed of how to detect signs of superiority or privilege that happen in the educational system that dehumanize students? And I'm asking this question because a lot of times parents are working. There might be a language barrier. There might be some sort of other barrier where parents are not informed about what's going on with their kids at school. What would you suggest parents do, or how can they become more informed of helping their kids navigate through those types of situations?
It's hard because I would say that my mom, for me, was on top of everything. Like, I got kicked out of school, or I got thrown off the bus, or I got a referral. You know, she was there in the school every time yelling at somebody. But the fact is, you're at school for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. There's the big things that you can know about. And I think absolutely, like, if your child is getting written up unfairly or getting kicked out of school, like, you need to go and advocate for them. But a lot of it is little things, tiny things that aren't little, but they happen a million times a day, every day. And it's like, there's only so much that a parent can push back against. You can't walk in a classroom and demand that the teacher treat your child like they're a human being, unfortunately. I mean, you can, but they won't. So I think, no, it's important to have your kids back. I definitely feel better knowing that, like, you know, my mom will come down to school and yell and throw stuff at people. It made me feel like somebody had my back.
Right.
But, you know, at the same time, it's like, that really, to me, that's the best thing that you can do is have that dialogue open with your child where they feel like they can tell you what's happening. And the best thing that you can do is reassure them, because, of course, this is part of a larger issue, you know, a systemic societal issue. So, like, in general, the most important thing I feel like a parent can do is let their kid know that they're not alone, even though it feels that way.
Yeah, this is a question that hits home for me as a parent. You know, I don't have kids in high school yet, but I have a second grader, a fifth, and a sixth grader, and I'm involved in their school, but not everyone can do that. And even at the rate that I can be involved, as Quinton said, I can't be there 7 hours a day. So I love what Quinton said. The only thing I think I could add to that is encourage your child to be involved in an extracurricular that is not associated with the school. Key to Change is an example of that. There's others for parents maybe listening that maybe their student isn't interested in violin or viola, but having them involved in a like-minded group with a like-minded interest will open communication up and have them meet other peers that are interested in the same things that may actually be in their school, and they may be more inclined to talk with. I know our students talk about their orchestra experiences and pretty plain and openly in lessons with one another and with Dr. Morris. So I think that's important, as well as asking them about their day, giving them space to just share is important too.
Yeah. I agree with both of you on that. I think it's really important. And really what we're talking about is the creation of culture, which is what we have that I think is so beautiful within our organization, where you have students of all different ethnicities who are engaged in learning and sharing their passion for the violin or the viola in a very open and safe space. Why do you think it is that there are not a lot of, and I'm going to say classical music organizations that are inclusive of all different backgrounds? Why is it that we don't have a large amount of organizations that are focused on youth, that are of color, that come from different ethnic backgrounds or socioeconomic backgrounds? Why is that?
I'll take a stab at it, but I'm really excited to hear what Quinton has to say as well. But I would say that it comes down to the barriers that are put up. I mean, you look at any orchestra. My friend and I recently went to the Seattle Opera, and we got to see the orchestra down in the pit, and it was pretty fun just right before the start of the show to see them warming up. Not a black or brown person in sight. Not one. And I think it's probably pretty fair to say that that's a similar ratio across the country in orchestras. So there's clearly something going on. I can't imagine that it's that Black and brown students are just genetically uninterested in classical music.
Yeah.
So what is it?
Yeah, I would say, it's by design. Classical music is a European domain historically. Like, that's how it's viewed. That's how it's gatekept. And these sort of like old world cultural bastions are, like very heavily policed and heavily protected. By just nature of being, for instance, a Black composer or a Black classical violin player, you're transgressing, you're trespassing just merely by existing, because, the historical view, the long view of the field that you're in excludes you. So that creates a kind of inertia. It doesn't feel like active discrimination. It doesn't feel that way because that's how it's always been. There's Mozart and there's Chopin and there's all this long history, and it never included you. And so it doesn't need to start now. And so there's one type of discrimination, where people are sort of actively kept out of a thing. But there's a different type where you're trying to overcome the inertia of this field never included you. It can and it should. But who's going to have the will or the momentum to overcome this sort of, passive racism, this passive exclusion? Like, oh, we're not actively keeping people out. This is just the way it is, So that's like a difficult one to combat, because then you're not just tasked with letting people in, you're tasked with going out and energizing people. You're asked to go out and coalition build, to bring people into something that they haven't been a part of. And that takes a different set of skills and a different amount of energy, rather than just opening a door that people are already knocking on.
I think that also goes with what Quenton was mentioning of why is there not other programs in the Pacific Northwest that focus on this? Because as you said, it takes a lot of work, and to really combat that convenience that many people have that are white.
Ashley, I'm just going to ask you this, as someone who works with two Black men, as a white woman, do you ever feel uncomfortable, or do you ever feel like, oh my gosh, like this is too much? Or like, what's your experience as a white woman working with two Black men?
So, interestingly enough, I'll see if this answer surprises you. As being recorded today, talking about these things, I'm the white person in the room trying to talk about equity and social justice. I'm like, well, how much is this even my place to be the one to, I'd rather defer to Quinton or Dr. Morris, I don't know, what am I supposed to say, or what can I contribute? I love working with the two of you. And yeah, as the minority, it's weird as a white person to be the minority, because in my entire life, I never was. I lived in rural South Central Pennsylvania. There literally may have been one or two Black families in my school. We had a farmer's fair, people drove tractors at age 12, that's kind of where I grew up. And it's been wonderful though for me, because it gives me a direct line towards students that feel like this every day, literally for 7 hours a day. We feel like the person that doesn't look like everybody else, and although that hasn't held me back in my position, and there's nothing personal that I feel intimidated or, oh, there's two Black men, that I'm working with. It's more of just, wow, this is how it feels to be not in the majority. And it's a good feeling. Everybody needs to feel that at some point in their life for longer than just a little piece here and there. But I work with two brilliant brilliant Black men, and I love it.
Thank you. Well, what do you think that supporters, or if, let me rephrase the question. If someone who had wealth or was the president of a foundation came up to either one of you and said, I want to remove a disparity or a challenge for a student in Key to Change, what would you say to them? How can Key to Change help them remove a barrier? What do they need to do?
I mean, it depends on how much money they have. But I would say, like, you can purchase an instrument or a few instruments and donate them. That removes the barrier. You can contribute to a scholarship fund, that removes another barrier. Those types of contributions can really like remove, because like cost of taking lessons or acquiring an instrument or finding some way to like solve a transportation issue or all those different types of things. Or even, I mean, the list is really endless, because it's like, okay, well,
right,
there's all these different, like Ashley, you mentioned that one student that has to be available to watch his sister. I don't think a donor is going to roll up and pay for childcare, but like really the list is endless of ways that you can impact a kid's life positively if you're in a position of wealth.
I would add to that I think somebody that is in a position of wealth that is local to this area, the biggest thing they can do is mobilizing their network to be aware of what we're doing, because we have the materials to share. We've thought out a business plan. We've thought out our strategic, goals for the next 3 to 5 years, but it's a matter of getting in the door. Right. So if you're someone listening that has connections or has wealth yourself, come see what it is we're doing and share it with the people that are in your circle. Because it's hard when you're at the door knocking, and we've got some great stuff here, and we want to share that.
My final question to you both is, what about a student, a prospective student, or a parent, or even maybe an orchestra teacher in a public school or a private school that live in South King County, and they are interested in joining the program, but they see that there are a lot of students of color. This is a Black-led organization where we have staff who are of color. A lot of times people get turned off by that because they think, oh, is that a good organization? Oh, do they have any money? Oh, are they a well-run organization? What would you say to that person who might be interested in having their child, or if they're a teacher, their student, join our program? Give me your pitch on why they should join Key to Change.
You want me to take a stab at it here?
Take a stab at it, Ashley.
Okay.
Go for it.
I've been waiting for this question. So, violin is merely our vessel, and we do it really well. Why kids stay is the community. If you're looking for community, if you're looking for opportunity that you will not find in your local school orchestra or symphony, if you're involved in a local youth symphony, there are opportunities at Key to Change that you could never have dreamt of. And our students are constantly amazed at those opportunities that they're receiving. this man, Dr. Morris, has got more connections than I even realized. They're just coming out left and right. And he mobilizes those connections for Key to Change for the students. And that's something I love about him. I love that about our organization. I love that the students are developing skills for accountability, persistence, perseverance. Those are all things they're going to need in life that you hope as a parent that your child will develop somehow, that they'll be a thriving adult someday. And that's what Key to Change does. In addition to the world-class music, we're preparing students to be world changers and leaders in their community. So who wouldn't want to be involved in that?
Yeah, all of that. And also I would say that, you know, as a parent, you want your kid to be cared for and to succeed. And as a teacher, you want your students to be challenged. And as a kid, you want to find a place that you belong and feel good in. And I would say that Key to Change exists at the intersection of care and expertise and community, where you will be cared for and you will be seen. You will also be challenged and receive, you know, unparalleled levels of instruction, and a curriculum that is rigorous and exciting and unique. And you will also find a community of people who look like you and don't look like you, who, you know, a broad coalition of joining that you can learn from and contribute to. And finding something like that at any point in life is rare. Finding something like that that caters to Black and Brown youth, that caters to difference. You know, like Audre Lorde said, that our differences broaden the joining. And I think that Key to Change is an example of what that kind of care and that kind of broadening looks like in practice in a community.
Come on with the quote, Quenton. I love
a poet thing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thank you both so much for being on the show. I love working with both of you, and I am just blessed to lead this organization and work with both of you. I think you're both brilliant. I love the fact that I can come to you and ask you both hard questions and ask you different things that I might not always be so sure about, and know that you're always going to first have the back and the integrity of the organization, and then also give me your full, transparent, honest answer. And I think that is why this organization has also been successful, is because you all are the backbone of this organization, along with Jeffrey Liu and Beth Chu, who are also music instructors here at Key to Change. So I thank you so much for being a part of this organization, for helping to to transform, excuse me. I appreciate the fact that you both are help transform the lives of the students within the organization. You both are such a pivotal part of the growth and the success of Key to Change, and I thank you both very, very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been an excellent experience, and I can't wait for what's ahead. It's going to be great.
Me either. Okay, last question. Who is Key to Change a year from now? Ashley, you first.
Key to Change a year from now is going to be further connected to some of the big name orchestras in our area. We're going to be known, continue to bring awareness of the disparities and invite people along to help correct those disparities and to do what they can to help give our youth more opportunity.
Yeah, you know, another year into the growth plan, you know, hopefully a bigger budget to provide a bigger impact, because more funders and more donors saw and recognized what Key to Change is doing. sees the proof in the students and their lives, and that, you know, the impact continues to grow and spread across South King County and beyond.
Great. There it is. You've heard it from them. Thank you both so very much for being on Unmute the Voices. Really appreciate your advocacy and your hard work. And thank you as well to the viewers for joining us for this episode of Unmute the Voices. I encourage you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can also find us on social media under Unmute the Voices. Until next time, have a great day.